I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy. You gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee, stay. You tune into the HBCU Sports Lab with Dr. Cavil, Mike and Charles, and I'm time.
Welcome. This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Welcome to episode 87 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from NAIA to NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-hosts, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We are filming from our home studio and sending a signal live to KSOH 1230 AM studios with Texas Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. As we here in Texas, if you would, are opening up with the first day of early voting. And boy, does it seem like the folks have come out to make a statement. We shall see. Good for the people. Get out there. With that, today's episode of Inside HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. As we say, welcome to the lab. For followers, we need your support. Download and register the network app from Apple and Android app stores. Once at least 20 people register during our show, they will be all entered into a drawing to win a cash gift card, as 4 special followers will win a free BCSN mask and THG Agency mask. Make sure you select number 7 inside the HBCU Sports Lab of the show that brings you the network. We have HBCU Sports Lab gear coming as well. If you have any suggested email designs on the HBCU Sports Lab, go ahead and send it to me. That's jkcavi@gmail.com, jkcavi@gmail.com. Today's show will be a good one. We will be joined by the founder of Black College, or co-founder of the Black College Experience, Keisha Kelly, to discuss her love for HBCUs and her feature on the HBCU Homecoming Documentary. With that, we're going to give you a special version of the show today. This is the time traditionally during the year that many of the HBCUs are getting into their homecoming if they hadn't had some of them already. So this is the time that oftentimes Mike and I getting ready, making plans for the RV if we would, finding a way to shorten up the work week, and getting prepared to do what is necessary to make sure that we participate in the Prairie View A&M homecoming. One, historically, in regards to the RV, that we were actually the individuals that started the RV tailgate. A lot of people don't realize that. And I do have the envelope from the RV in regards to the date and time when we rented that RV.
We have proof.
United States Postal Service. We have proof in regards to that we were the first one out there, along with pictures. And these pictures actually have, at that time, it was coming popular. People were putting date and time stamps on the pictures. So we have one of those too. So we're not just talking about lip service. And as a researcher, I had to go in the archives and make sure that I could prove the substance when I put it on paper. So I've even written about it and documented it.
Absolutely.
So I say all that to say, this is going to be a homecoming show. And so we're going to get to talk a little bit about the experience. Before we get into this interview, with that, let's go ahead and do some of the HBCU news of the day. And since Charles is smiling, rightfully so hard, because he has been a beneficiary of being a good brother, and as good brothers we are, he has come down when there's not a home game or he's not covering Texas Southern University. He's come down and partaken in the Prairie A&M homecoming festivities, and he has given it the seal of approval. Obviously, Jackson State University is dear to his heart, so we're not going to make him necessarily pick one, but he has certified that Prairie View is certainly one of the top on the map. So with that, I'm going to let him give us some HBCU news of the day, and if he cares to talk about that, the certified homecoming, we'll get into that, and he can do that as well. But we'll take a deep dive a little later, just giving you a little tease. So all you out there chatting away and talking about, tell us why your homecoming is so special. Why is it, in your mind, considered the best homecoming? With that, Charles, go ahead and give us some HBCU news of the day.
Well, let's start off talking about everything going on down at Florida Memorial. And one of the things that jumps out, this comes to us from HBCU Gameday, is Florida Memorial. They cancel 2 sports as COVID-19 remains a question. So volleyball and women's soccer were the 2 sports that were canceled with regards to their season. So a lot of troubling things coming out of Florida Memorial right now, and I have to commend HBCU Sports, Ken Rashad, HBCU Gameday, and all the outlets in terms of their coverage of what's happening down at Florida Memorial. Sad state of events right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Great points. I'd like to say kudos to our very own BCSN, Roy, right. Brian, them. They've actually did some great reporting on that, and they did it from a perspective where they actually work with Florida Memorial. So in a consulting way, they're trying to help them understand the magnitude of what they're in. So we'll see if that can move things in a more positive direction. But we certainly will keep our eyes on it. Certainly different frameworks in terms of what's going on, difficult times for Florida Memorial at a time where they've done so much in regards to 65 years about rebuilding that brand. I hate to see that they're in the spotlight for this negative reason versus this positive reason. I do see up there in this picture for Florida Memorial that they have the headstone with Alpha Phi Alpha right there in front of it. So I think that is a significant statement in itself. So we'll see what we can do there. Mike, what you got going on?
Oh man, so switching gears, no pun intended. Talk about NASCAR. We just recently had an African American win kind of a lower tier race almost a couple of weeks ago. So now Norfolk State's Brianna Daniels received the Crew Member Award as a pit crew independent contractor. So Daniels was one of 10 individuals recognized at this year's virtual awards ceremony held on this past Thursday. She was honored for her pioneering work in NASCAR after becoming the first African American woman to American women.
Gonna jump in there a little bit
Sure.
as we moving forward with that. If you would, Charles, I wanted to give a shout out to some folks. As you can see, keep your notes coming. We're gonna give you a time to shine a little bit on the screen. Usually I jump out there and shout out some names, but you see we have them scrolling in there. So get your good comments in there, and we'll make sure we get your names up. But just for some due diligence, Chuck Hunt, Wendy Jenkins Bishop, all of us jumping in here. My classmate Curry Halliburton back at Waco Independent School Districts jump in there. Checking in from Jacksonville, Florida, representing D.I. Love is Tony Daniels. AD, man, COVID is big news this week once again, no doubt about it. Jeffrey Rumlin, FAMU, I see that he has his logo of the Lakers, so it seems like he's pretty happy there. Christopher Darrell jumping in here, giving us some love. D is also representing TU, talking about the shed for homecomings. FAMU talking about the set. The legendary Ralph Cooper is taking care of us in the background, as always. Dwight Moore jumping on here. George Walker, Sam Barnes. Samuel Barnes, an old friend there, talking about University of Arkansas Pine Bluff checking in tonight. Appreciate you. Yeah, them Golden Lions in the house. With that, Charles, go ahead and give us some updates in terms of what's going on.
Sure thing. Well, one of the things, we got some basketball getting ready to start next week. So one of the articles that came out today is Xavier. They've been picked to finish first in the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference. And I tell you what, they have a nice team coming back, 7 of 10 starters coming back for Xavier. And this is for the first time in 8 seasons that they have been predicted to finish first in the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference. So always a very competitive conference. We're talking about Xavier, Talladega, Dillard, the Xavier-Dillard rivalry going on there. So should be good basketball in store in the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference this upcoming season.
No doubt about it. That's pretty cool in regards to what's going on in the Gulf Coast Conference. Man, a lot of things, a lot of big news in the Gulf Coast. We talked about Xavier saying that this is their last year. Basketball, men's and women's coming up, release the standards. One of the first out there to do that. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to take place. Xavier cut down the nets on the men's side last year, and they were excited about doing it. So that was the first time in many years for them. So a lot of people are going to have the chip on the shoulders for both the men's and women's for Xavier in regards to, as some would say, sending them out in the right fashion, right style. With that, Mike, come on back in. Give us some new news of the day. What else do you have on the pipeline?
So, yeah, sorry, I had technical difficulties, but I got caught off was giving props to Brianna Daniels. But I also have to give props to Jennifer Satterfield-Siegel of Rev Racing with NASCAR. Satterfield-Siegel is the first African-American female team owner and sponsor in the NASCAR Touring Series. If somebody said that, I apologize. She and her husband, Max Siegel, co-own and manage Rev Racing, an Indianapolis-based firm. So congratulations to her. She received NASCAR's Diversity Award during their programs. I think it was October 8th. So in tremendous waves that NASCAR is making. So
great point. And we hadn't talked about that. Go ahead. You got a little more? Go ahead.
Yeah, I got some new news. So it looks like recruiting wars have started, and I don't know when I dropped off, but dude out of Duncan, DeSoto, Texas. Those of you from the Dallas, Texas
saw that.
Y'all know DeSoto has listed.
Yeah, Soto got some big time players to come out of that area. That's
absolutely.
For those that are not familiar with Texas, obviously you know about the recruiting wars in this area, but Dallas is a hotbed of talent. In Dallas and DeSoto, with Cedar Hill, some Duncanville that you may have heard about, their football team they played for the championship against North Shore, and so it's in the southern part of the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex area, and it's a suburban type area. And it has a high level of African-American populations, middle class to upper class African-Americans in that area. And so talented area to give you a little insight. But go ahead. What's going on with DeSoto now?
So 6'8" power forward. Listed Hampton, North Carolina, A&T as, his top 5 schools. Of course, he listed a couple of others. UTSA, Old Dominion, Dayton. So this comes to us from HBCU Gameday. Of course, got to give them credit. Also, got to give a little credit to social media as well, because I get these alerts simultaneously. But a good prospect. So both Hampton and North Carolina T have come up on the top tier of his list. So you remember Mikey Williams, he's made his commitment off force, and now we have yet another African-American athlete who's listed HBCUs at the top of his recruiting chain. So I think that's big news as well. Even if he doesn't decide to go there, that's big news to me. If you look at where he's ranked, he's a 4-star recruit. So he's come out publicly and said, "Hey, I want to identify these two schools." So kudos to him. We wish him luck and best of wishes in whatever he decides. But you gotta know that that's big.
No doubt about it. So that's pretty good news. With that, Charles, you got some more. I'm really excited about these recruiting wars. It looks like they're going to step up in a different way. The game is changing a little bit at a time, but it certainly seems to be trending in a direction as an HBCU fan that I like. So it'll be interesting to follow this. But, Charles, do you have some other news that you wanted to add?
Well, sure, and kind of following up on what you were saying, Mike, in terms of some of the high school kids, in terms of them adding HBCUs into their list of prospective schools. That's the first step. And then I think the second step is to see whether these young men and these young ladies, whether they actually pull the trigger, so to speak, and decide to attend HBCUs. But like you mentioned, it's great for them to put HBCUs in the mix. But definitely, I would love to see firm commits in terms of coming to some of these HBCU schools. And you mentioned recruiting wars. Jackson State, they look like they picked up another young lady who 6'2" forward. So you're starting to see, and we keep talking about this renaissance of players looking at HBCUs and making commitment to HBCUs. And these coaches, Tamika Reed at Jackson State, I mean, she has picked up another dandy dozen, which is what we call them in Mississippi, another dandy dozen players. So kudos to these coaches. They're definitely getting in the mix, and they're making sure that their respective school is in front of these elite prospects nowadays.
Yeah, great point that you're making there. Many people talk about this as we get prepared to get into our first interview. Hopefully, we'll be bringing on Keisha Kelly of the Black College Experience as she's getting ready to come in and give us some updates. She was in and then stepped away, so we'll see if we can get that going. But I wanted to get into a little bit of this conversation of HBCU homecoming. There was an article that came out of the New York Times, and they certainly try to do a plug here and there, and I think they mean well. But as Mike likes to talk about, and I have to agree with him on this case in a lot of ways, that East Coast bias that you see in there. But the fact that they did some information on homecomings was really interesting. So we're going to get a chance to take a deeper dive, talk a little bit more about homecomings. But before that, we have our guest, the co-founder of the Black College Experience, Keisha Kelly. We are back in the lab, so I will just say welcome to Keisha Kelly. But everybody, how you doing?
I'm fine, but let me correct you. I'm the founder, not co-founder, the founder. That's all me.
Okay. I thought
That's
I
all
saw
me.
that they had co-founder in the
Get it straight, then. Get it straight.
Absolutely not. That's all me. All the paperwork says Keisha J. Kelly. That's all me. That is all me.
Right
Get it
on.
straight
I
from the
understand
jump.
the love in regards to all the work you put in there to making sure people know. So we make sure that we will say that and say it straight here. The founder of the Black College Experience, Keisha Kelly.
Thank you. And then I realized I misspelled my last name, but whatever. I was like, wait, I misspelled my last name.
One thing we know about Keisha, if y'all don't know yet, Keisha keeps it real. So this is just who she is. She brings it. She comes with a lot of passion. So it happens to the best of us. So that's no problem. But we're going to get into some great conversation because the work that you're doing, beside all that, is a great bit of work. So before we do that, we're going to do a little sneak peek of the video promo that you put out there so you can talk a little bit more about it. So we'll bring you right back. Let's go to this promo so everybody can see the work that you're putting out there.
Homecoming at a university is what it says. It's coming home.
We get so caught up in our day-to-day lives, especially now that we're out of school and we're grown and have families and working and careers and all that good stuff. And homecoming is a way to come back and reconnect.
The experience, HBCU Homecoming, an experience like no other. Man, that looked like some tremendous work. I can't wait to check it out. Before we get into some further conversation and really go back a little bit more about yourself, tell us again, when will that actually debut? When can everybody check it out and where?
Actually, it'll debut on November 14th. They haven't given us all the information as to where it's going to debut. So I guess once it gets closer, they'll let us know. But they haven't given us any of that information. They just let us know to put that out as a trailer, as the teaser on Saturday.
No problem about that. Tell them where they can, if they don't already have your information, social media platforms, tell them where they can follow you so they can keep up to know when you get a chance to tell them exactly where they can check it out.
So, of course, we're on Facebook, and that's going to be The Black College Experience. On Twitter, it's Black College EXP, and then on Instagram, it's Black College Experience.
Thank you. With that, let's go back and talk a little bit more about Keisha Kelly, the founder of Black College Experience. If you would tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am originally from Huntsville, Alabama. I am a 2003 graduate of Southern University. I do actually have a twin sister that graduated from Alabama A&M. I currently reside here in Atlanta, Georgia. And like I stated before, I am the founder and CEO of Black College Experience, which of course started back in 2016. Started about 2015, but it was official about 2016. And then we just moved to podcast in 2018, and we've been going since then.
No doubt about it. You see, you learn a little something all the time. Didn't realize you were from Huntsville, Alabama. That's pretty cool. My wife, your sister, actually is a graduate of Alabama A&M. Didn't realize you were a twin. That's even just more information for the people to know out there. So with that, with your sister choosing Alabama A&M, it begs the question to ask. You decided to leave, not only Huntsville, but leave the state.
Exactly.
How did you get to Louisiana and Southern? Tell us about that.
So here's the okay, so I'm gonna tell y'all the secret. Can y'all see my shirt? Y'all see I got a FAMU shirt today?
Yes.
I'm gonna tell y'all a secret. FAMU was my first choice. I wanted to go to FAMU. And I went to FAMU for a band trip, I believe. And I think we hit one of those hills, and I was like, you know what? That ain't my style. I'm not going to be at FAMU. I was like, I'm not going to be walking at FAMU. So my sister at the time wanted to go to Southern. I think she ended up getting pregnant. And so she decided she stayed at home. And it's kind of like I went at her place. Because at the time, I really wasn't sure. I looked at Jackson State. I looked at Southern. I looked at Grambling, FAMU. And I think Southern was the first one to respond. So I was like, hey, that's where I'm going.
Oh, I love it. That's real talk. With that, Charles, if you would jump on in here and ask a follow-up question.
Well, Keisha, obviously you're a Southern graduate, but talk a little bit about your homecoming experience down there on the bluff. I've had the good fortune to experience one of you guys' homecoming. I definitely enjoy, the tailgating experience without a doubt. But talk a little bit about the Southern homecoming experience.
I tell people it's absolutely nothing like a HBCU homecoming. Extremely, extremely over the top for Southern. I mean, it's tailgating, it's a family experience. And I tell people, just come hungry because you're going to eat. I don't care where you are. Somebody's going to feed you. You walking down the strip. So it's tailgating for days. It's food for days. It's DJs. I mean, everybody's just cutting up, having a good time. And everybody's getting amped up for the game. But, building up to that, thinking about all the different things that's going on from Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's just so much going on for homecoming. But it's so much tradition, so much pride, so much family-oriented things. Just seeing the RVs rolling onto campus. And I was talking to somebody actually from Mississippi, and he was saying how he was like, I kind of remember going to one of y'all homecomings and people were rolling in on like a Wednesday. And I started laughing because I was like, I honestly believe that, because you have people rolling in. I say Thursday when I would actually come in, but you got people there that's really camped out waiting on that last class to end so they can get started. You got the alcohol, you got everything lit, so everybody ready to get turned up.
That's what it is. Yeah.
I told you, he gonna tell you like it is now, and that's all true. for those that do a homecoming. I'm not sure if there's an HBCU homecoming that can't put that on the table. That's
Right,
how it goes down in terms of getting there and getting ready. But with that, go
right.
ahead, Mike, if you would ask a follow-up question.
Yes, Miss Keisha, thank you for coming on the show. It's nice to meet you as well.
You too.
So you passed up being a bulldog, decided to be a jaguar, but you wanted to be a rattler. So we'll put that all together. So let me ask you a hypothetical question. You went to Southern, so you know a little something about gumbo, and you know it takes a lot of ingredients to make a gumbo. But you know the roux is the most important part of the gumbo. So as we
Correct.
look at the HBCU homecoming experience, can you give me your 4 top ingredients for an HBCU homecoming gumbo, and what's the roux? Which one's the most important ingredient from your perspective and your experience?
Whew. All right. So I'm going first of all, you gotta have it, you gotta have a team. That's gonna be my rule. That I'm not a bad person, so my rule is gonna be the football team. Gotta have a football team. The
I
next
like
part
that.
of my ingredients is gonna have to be the band. Gotta have a band. Gotta have a band. Coming in after that, you gotta have the parties. You got to have the parties when you get to homecoming. And then of course you gotta get drunk. You gotta turn up. Come on. And you're not gonna skip no ingredients. Come on now. Y'all know everybody is gonna get drunk. Come on now. That's your ingredient.
I'll tell you this. Man, I would have loved to meet you in during school. We would have had a great time. Yeah. We had a
We
good
used to drink with football players, and you see how small I am. That just wasn't the best idea. It was not the best idea, man.
But you know what, Keisha?
I like that top 4. We're going to have to run that back at the later part of the show and ask everybody else their top 4. But this is about you right now. But that's a good one. I think people going to have a hard time matching up with that. In fact, I'm going to tell the people out there that are watching us, tell us and put in your top 4, your ingredients of what makes a great homecoming. You got what Keisha Kelly said, the founder of Black College Experience. She gave you her top 4. You tell us what is your top 4 for a great HBCU homecoming, and we'll keep checking that out as we get through it. With that, let's follow up, and let me jump in here and talk a little bit about the Black College Experience. How did it come about?
So in my opinion, we had the need for Black college media, and the thing is like I always tell people, you can turn on the TV now, and you can see a SEC network, you can see an NFL network, but you don't see any networks that's strictly dedicated to Black college sports. And so you have all of these athletes like Tariq Cohen, you have all of these athletes that's just kind of going through. And, it's like once they make it to the league, people know about them then. But we're sitting here going, okay, well, we didn't watch these kids play 4 years. We didn't watch these athletes play 4 years. And y'all are just now discovering them when they were here breaking records and setting statistics back then. So I just felt like it was a need for them to get the same exposure that other athletes were getting in other conferences.
Yeah, that's tremendous that you took up that and are doing it so well. With that, let me jump back to Mike, and then we'll go on to Charles. Follow up with another question, Mike.
So I still have my more homecoming questions, but I'm gonna put those aside. What challenges did you have with the Black College Experience? Starting it up, getting that exposure, growth over time. What was your most significant challenge over the course of the last few years in trying to grow the Black College Experience and getting that exposure?
One of the things I always with Black College Experience, and y'all probably can attest to this, one thing is getting people to buy into it. Trying to get people to buy into something and support it is one of the biggest things. And it's like the more you're there, the more you're working, the more you're grinding, the more people see you're serious about it. But that had to be one of the hardest things, is getting people to buy into it. The next thing, no offense to the 3 of y'all, but being in a male-dominated field, it's always arguing back and forth with guys. You got to. It's always constantly trying to prove your point. So at this point, I'm like, I say what I'm gonna say, and I get out of the way. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. That's fine. But it's one of those constant back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, trying to prove a point because of your gender. And that's probably like the two biggest things.
Absolutely.
No, that's fair. I'm glad that you put that on the table. We need to make sure if we are colleagues and we really believe in the craft and we're open, we need to make sure we bring
Right.
that space. And one of the things that I'm proud of what we've done on this show constantly is make sure that we had voices from women in regards to that to tie in. Because I think, to be honest with you, while as brilliant as I would like to think we are, we can certainly leave things off to the table. So we need that voice that covers and just brings a different perspective. So I appreciate you actually sharing that and honestly holding us accountable in regards to making sure that, just like we said, big brothers, he's not heavy, that we talk about our sisters and make sure to know that they're not heavy, and we provide them with an opportunity to carry. And oftentimes over the years, we certainly can say they carried us. So with that, Charles, if
Without
you would
question.
follow up with.
Yeah, Keisha, let me go back to your root, because you started off and you mentioned the football team, which I know for me, I mean, you speaking my language in terms of how important the team itself is, because, you know, for me, if there is no, you know, homecoming win, it kind of puts a damper on everything else around it. So, you know, Jackson State Southern, we have our little rivalries and whatnot, but you mentioned the team and talk about, for those who, I think sometimes when you talk about homecomings, everything else comes up but the game itself. But you mentioned the team. So how important was that for you Southern grads down there, for that the team is actually playing well?
You know, I think a lot of times we have to separate it. I think in this, I'll say the era that we're in now, because we have social media, you have more people pounding the band at you. So we see all the bands. We see Jackson State. We see Southern. We see we see all of the bands on media. And sometimes I think that we have to go over beyond to actually put the football teams out there, because at the end of the day, it's one of the things I live by. For all athletes, all student athletes, male or female, these kids go out here and put on a show for us every weekend. I don't care what sport it is. So we owe it to them to go out there and support them. We owe it to them to give just as much exposure to them as we give anything else that's going on our campuses. So I think that actual game day is one of the most important things for me, not only because we're covering it, but because, you know, these students have so much pressure on them, because you think about it, you 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, and then you got all these older people coming at your neck like, okay, you gotta win. So I think that it's very important. And that's what we do. We put a lot of pressure on them homecoming, certain games. We put a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree with that. We have a lot of folks over the years that have kind of provide that concern in regards to the focus being on the sporting event, particularly in football, when you have the huge band platform. And we're obviously proud of the band, but it is the platform in regards to how they coordinate. To understand that the sport, particularly football, is there to be played in its first and foremost, even if they're not playing at the level that many of us would like. Then, you know, the band, you know, the cheerleaders are a component of that, and not to say they're second, but they certainly shouldn't take the focus away from what people are there to see in so many different ways, is what's on the field. You have a halftime show for a reason. You have the walk-in for a reason, right? Pre-game. And then you have the fifth quarter for a reason that allows that showcase appropriately and throughout the game. So just kind of wanted to coordinate and put that out there. Keisha, if you have a little more time, we'd like to keep you over. We need to take a break, and then we bring you back and finish up the interview. With that, this is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We have the founder of the Black College Experience. That's Keisha Kelly, Kelley. Just for you all that don't know, that's Kelley.
Get it right. Get it right.
My phone, I have it in my phone correctly, and so this was a typo that went there. So I do want you to know that.
I thought I did. Oh, okay.
Yeah, And it happened, and we coordinated. So now we'll take this one. We make you look clean. You too important as the founder to make we keep you clean. We'll
Sorry.
hold on to that.
Thank
It's
you.
all good. With that, let's take this quick break. This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We'll be back for more with Keisha Kelly.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We are here with the founder of the Black College Experience, talking about the Experience HBCU Homecoming documentary that she was a part of, and we'll get into a little more of that. With that, as we say, welcome to the lab. For the followers, we need your support. Download and register with the network app from Apple and Android app stores. Once at least 20 registers during our show, they will all be entered into a drawing to win a cash gift card. Also, 4 special followers will win a free BCSN mask and a THC agency mask. Make sure you select number 7 inside the HBCU Sports Lab as the show that brings you the network. We have HBCU Sports Lab gear coming as well. If you have any suggested email designs for us, give me an email, jkcavi@gmail.com. That's jkcavi@gmail.com. Also, I want to let y'all know this is a BCSN network, and a lot of people on the show are doing this. And you know how we represent, we got a lot of pride with inside the HBCU Sports Lab, so we want to be the best. So make sure you all entertain us for this purpose, because we want to be at number 1 among all the BCSN shows. So let's do our part and let's make that happen. So go on there and at number 7 inside the HBCU Sports Lab. With that, back to Keisha Kelly, that's Kelley, the founder of Black College Experience. Let's go in a little bit. I know we were talking about homecoming, and we'll get a chance to talk a little bit more of the experience, but I really want to talk about this because this really was a wonderful way that put a great shine on you. In a lot of ways, Rob Calloway, I want to give him credit. He got into the interview and really talked about that, and he's a great colleague of ours as well. And he comes on the show right now. He's doing some additional homework, if you would, as he's taking a certificate class. So he'll join us back in a couple of weeks. But you were present for the Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, as they're saying around those parts, press conference at Jackson State. So you got over there media-wise, and I thought that was impressive in and of itself about how you carry yourself and take seriously this platform that we are. So credit to you for that. What was the feeling in the room? What was the atmosphere like on campus? How were the alumni and current students reacting to this announcement as the head coach for football? You can answer all 3 of those or one of those. We had
Well, you see Charles down there laughing. You see Charles laughing because I ran into him. So you see him laughing.
Yeah.
I feel like he went over there to that bookstore and told them people to send me another T-shirt. I don't know why you laughing, but I feel like you was behind it. I feel like you was behind. I got a mysterious second Jackson State T-shirt. So I think that was you.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure you were covered while you were on campus, Keisha.
So was that you? I was trying to figure out where the Jackson State T-shirt came from. Thank you.
Hey, anytime
I
can adorn a Southern graduate with a little something that says Jackson State on it.
Like we were really I was like, I don't know who sent this T-shirt. Okay, now the cat's out the bag. But no,
Keisha,
yes.
Keisha, I want to show you something. I had just met Charles, and you see these JSU shots. Now it's a well-known fact that at homecoming I like to do shots. Look who gets me these Jackson State shot cups.
I see that.
I'll give you one. You see they ain't opened.
He's very hospitable though. He don't care. I took that shirt. I said, "Oh, somebody sent me another Jackson State shirt." I folded up, and I said, "How do you know my dress? And how do you know the size?" I didn't even know, but I was like, "Thank you, Charles."
No problem.
That's all right. I was like, "It ain't no return address. It ain't nothing on there. Just straight from Amazon." I was like, wow. Yeah. But no, back to what you were saying. It was a really great time on campus. I really did. I needed that moment to be away from Atlanta. I did. I needed the moment with so much going on. I needed that moment to be away from Atlanta. Now, going on to campus, I didn't really expect it to, the alumni was great. So I really didn't expect day 2. I thought it was just going to be, how we, kind of walk up. It was going to be guarded, but it was so much free range to what media can do. We could actually walk up to the stage. You could actually be like, within arm's length of Deion. So I think everybody appreciated that. It was a great Monday. I think everybody appreciated that actual announcement. But Tuesday, when we actually did just media, that was the actual moment where I guess to me, I'm one of those, I've met so many people. So it's just kind of like, But then when I came back home, I was like, wait, you for real met Deion Sanders. You realize it, right? And so the more people kept saying, Keisha, you met Deion Sanders, I was like, yo, I met Deion Sanders. Like, for real, I met Deion Sanders. And just having that conversation and seeing him, talk about how he believes, I think he had everybody buying into that. He had me buying into it. So I think it was just a great moment. And, having that conversation that Tuesday, talking about believing and him calling me out about it, that was the funny part of the media day on Tuesday.
No doubt about
Awesome.
it. Great point. Charles, if you would, go ahead and follow up since you've given all these gifts away. I'll tell you this story before you ask that. It was a wonder. Now I start to understand what's going on here. I come back and all of a sudden I get this red cap with the blue J on it. I wore it today. He said, I got something for Deuce. And so he hands me this cap. And I was like, this is intriguing. So now all of a sudden, I'm running around and Deuces start talking about the Sonic Boom of South and Jackson State. And I'm like, he's in a house with myself, Prairie View, my wife, Alabama A&M, both of us grad school for Texas Southern University. I'm like, where is this coming from? And then I just smile. I'm like, boy, that boy Charles, he's good.
That's okay. Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming.
I'm sure the Jaguar gear will be in the mail, so I'm already looking for it. But let me ask
Christmas
you
is coming.
You covered the press conference, of course, with Coach Prime coming to Jackson State, but we've talked about this a little bit in terms of what his presence means, not just for Jackson State, but for HBCUs in general. What is your kind of take on with regards to having a personality like that coming into the HBCU stratosphere?
I think that Deion Sanders is one of the best marketers. Like, he can market. I think he can market a pencil. Like, his marketing is just very strategic. And so having that kind of personality coming to a HBCU is not only a win for Jackson State, but it's a win for all HBCUs. So we can see what the recruiting trail has started out with already. Before I even got back to Georgia, I could see where that was going and all the media and all the hype. And it's just like, all the following. It's just been a lot of buzz and a lot of things. So I think it does a lot of things for, again, not only Jackson State, but for HBCUs in general, because now you're going to have more students, more athletes, considering HBCUs. Hey, maybe I should go play here. Maybe I could try here. So I think it does a lot. It does a lot of good for all of us. It makes us all look good.
Great point. With that, Mike, if you would go ahead and follow up, and then we'll give Keisha Kelly the platform to make sure that she has a closing statement and again, reiterate where people can follow her as well as talk again about the homecoming. video that documentary is coming out.
Yes, Keisha, you're obviously a sports aficionado. You're in Georgia. I've lived in Atlanta for 8 years. So, you know that that's SEC country. But with the latest SWAC moves, outside of Deion, that little school in Jackson that made some recent power moves, the overall SWAC has made some moves to put FAMU, Bethune-Cookman into the SWAC, and has in essence become kind of a power HBCU conference. Can you tell us from your perspective, what does that mean for the SWAC overall? From a marketing, cultural standpoint, if you'd have bought stock in the SWAC about a year ago, you'd be winning right now because your financial investment would just mean. But tell us what it means from your perspective with the latest inclusions outside of that little school in Jackson with Bethune and FAMU from your perspective.
Listen, every time somebody asks me, I said, listen, if you ain't in the SWAC, y'all losing right now. I need you to know that every school in the SWAC is winning. I don't care what it is. If you're in the SWAC, you are absolutely in the best place. And I think that was one of the best things, having FAMU and Bethune-Cookman come over, because now you have more trash talk, you have more classes, you have more rivalries. And I think one of the better things that, I'm excited to see, the Bethune-Cookman and the Florida A&M. So all of these renewed rivalries and things that's going to go on within the conference is a great thing. So you have that move and you have the Jackson State move. It's no better place than to be right now in the SWAC. And I know right now it's a lot of people wishing that they could come and take a spot and they can come take a seat. But, as they say, we forward, we closed. We closed right now. So what they say in Atlanta, we're closed. Can't nobody else join the conference. We closed.
I love it. We are with the founder of the Black College Experience, Keisha Kelly, Kelley, as you see now updated on the screen. We got you, sister. We don't play on this show here. But with that said, I'm going to give you the floor and talk about, again, where they can connect with you so they can follow up on the experience, HBCU Homecoming, which you play a vital role, giving your experience and updates on that, and maybe the next project that you're working on.
Okay, so again, you can follow us on Twitter. That's Black College EXP. On Facebook, it's going to be The Black College Experience. On Instagram, it's Black College Experience. Again, that the experience will be debuting on November 14th. And of course, I'll have all that information as they give it to us. We'll have all of that out on the platform. If you're looking for our actual podcast airs right now, it airs on Sundays, but right now we're doing pop-ups is what we're calling it. And it's on Thursdays because we changed the actual day due to the pandemic. So coming up next, I have been having conversation back and forth with 14-year NFL vet Antoine Bethea. So I talked to him yesterday and confirmed him. So he'll be our next guest coming up on Black College Experience, which that podcast is on Spreaker. So you can always find it there. And then as far as what I'm working on now, like I said, as you can see, I'm in the FAMU t-shirt. So right now I'm working on the HBCU t-shirt tour, which simply is, it's just a rollover of what Chris Paul was doing. Chris Paul was in the bubble with the tennis shoes. So I decided to pick up where Chris Paul left off. So what I'm just doing is it's just t-shirts. So every day or whenever I put on the HBCU t-shirts, I actually drop some nuggets in there, some information in there about the HBCU, add the actual website, have people go to the website, find the information that they're looking for. It's just a way to bring more exposure to our schools. And it's kind of an extension from my scholarship that I finished up. So it went from scholarship over to exposure. So it's just a way to keep closing the gap and telling people our story about HBCUs.
Thank you so much. Great information. I really like that, what you're doing with the t-shirt tour. That's an added experience. That's pretty cool. It's pretty dope. And we'll keep an eye on that. We're looking forward every time we check out what HBCU shirt will she wear next will be the question as to follow up. So that's pretty cool.
Jackson State, why Charles down there laughing? Jackson State. I'm going to wear the other one. I'm not going to wear that one. I'm going to wear the other one. It's Jackson State. Come on.
I love it.
With that, we just want to say thanks for joining us in the lab. Great
Thank you for
conversation.
having
Keep
me.
great work. It was our
Thank
pleasure.
you.
You bring a lot to the
Thank
table.
you.
We look forward to having you back soon to give us updates, especially as we get through the football season and the other sports as well. We can bring you in and get some updates and see your perspective or hear your perspective
Absolutely.
as well in terms of what you see going on this season. So we look forward to staying in connection. We got each other's contact now, so let's keep up, support each other, and thank you for the fabulous work you're doing. Can't wait to hear what you have to say on the experience, HBCU Homecoming. Again, that was conversations with founder of the Black College Experience, Keisha Kelly.
All right. In the words of my coach, go Jags.
No, she didn't.
Esports Lab.
Didn't.
We're going to take a quick break, and
You,
we'll be
you should have cut on
right
Mike
back
off.
to break down some more on the HBCU experience.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won a loss. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won a loss, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Will with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Before we get into a little more of that conversation in regards to homecoming and get you all to answer that question a little bit in regards to the top 4 ingredients, there was this little information that came out that talked about Deion's presence, Coach Prime's presence in terms of the social media platform. Last month, JSU was the highest in regards to the FCS level of media imprints, and that was a collection of Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And so that information came out from HBCU Gameday, and I thought that was a great point to point out to everybody when I was telling you about the business side of this, to really understand the magnitude of how this creates a different brand awareness, particularly obviously for Jackson State, but beyond that in the SWAC and HBCUs. So just wanted to give you a little insight of what that is. So let me jump right to you, Mike, because you put this on the table. And so I wanted to hear your 4 ingredients. I thought that was a brilliant question, and you do that quite often, I must add. But I thought let's circle back to that as we're talking about HBCUs. What are your top 4 ingredients? Because you are the tailgate specialist, and we got to bring that segment back a little more in terms of your tailgate recipe for the week as people get prepared for the spring and get ready to do some tailgating. That you have something that they may be able to add to the recipe. So I think that's appropriate for homecoming when so many people are doing their recipes. When we talk about great homecomings, what are the 4 most important components, recipes, if you would, to make a homecoming? And while you're doing it, I'm gonna see if some other folks will tease and will post what they have or repost if they already pushed it and we missed it. So tell me about your top 4.
Well, I mean, you hit a big one for me, and that's the tailgate. And I heard, CB, Charles, and Kelly talk about the team. Keep in mind that I attended Prairie View on the cuff of, unfortunately, when we didn't have much of a football team. And if anything, we had homecoming. So we had the culture, we had the band, we had the tailgating for sure. And going back to the band, if anything, even though we didn't have a football team, we notoriously went 10 years without a win in Prairie View A&M history, unfortunately, and it was tough. And if anything, we could say, well, at least the band won. So I would say tailgating. I could say the band. I could say the presence of alumni. It's important, young and old. And number four, this is only PV Panthers could, but you got to have the celebrations, the parties. We knew it as the tent party, and that tent party at Prairie View lasted about 4 days. It was synonymous also with a tailgate. And if I had to say if one was the rule or not, I'd have to say that the celebration itself, lasting over 3 or 4 days, was really the root. Because if you throw all the ingredients into that roux, the celebration lasting 3 or 4 days, then you have the makings of it. Now, to me, the cherry on top is the football team, and it is a part of that. But, if you have the culture, if you have the celebration, if you have the presence of alumni over 3 or 4 days, and then you have the tailgate, you have the makings of a real good. Now, there's all kinds of others, but that's Mike's big four, and you heard my rule.
Man, I
Good
love
stuff.
that rule. That's pretty nice. With that, we do have somebody that has chimed in here a little bit, so I want to give them some love in regards to Rick Key. Burton says, number one, let me do it as we do appropriately. Let's go from top to bottom. Number 4, parties. At number 3, the yard after the game. Number 2, bands. And number 1, the football game. I like that, Ricky Burton. So everybody else chime in. Give me your top 4 so I can read it out before we close out the show. Before that, let me go to Charles so he can tell me his top 4 for the room.
I think definitely for me. Yeah, I think definitely for me, the rule is the actual camaraderie of family coming home. I grew up about 15 minutes from Jackson State Stadium, so my house was ground zero for grandma, granddad, cousins, aunts, uncles, everybody coming to my house to get ready for the game. We tailgated for the most part at the house prior to the game, and just so many family pictures are centered around everybody coming in for homecoming. And that is a huge part of the experience for me. Growing up, watching older cousins, prepare for the game while they, went to Jackson State, and knowing one day, that would be me. So that was a huge part of just having everybody come in. And I was fortunate growing up in Jackson. Not only did we have homecoming, but we got to do it all over again for the Alcorn game. So we always had like 2 homecomings every season. I mentioned the game itself, from your dad, your uncles, talking about the matchup through the course of the week, and how you kind of need to get the win, because it does put a damper on everything else if you don't get the win on homecoming. So that always was a huge part of homecoming itself, is the game itself. In Jackson, the homecoming parade was another component that drew thousands of people to downtown Jackson. And the culmination of the parade is the Sonic Boom, marching through downtown, and you grow up with this homecoming parade from being in your local Cub Scout, Boy Scout, whatever auxiliary groups. You marched in the parade, and you kind of grew up with this parade being part of your childhood. So that was part of it for me. And then, once I get to college, another part of the rule itself is the day prior to homecoming, the Friday, the Thursday now, the block party at Jackson State, and then everybody coming back. One of the best parts of homecoming to me is getting a chance to see my sons, for them coming in for homecoming. And, we have the most competitive round of golf that we can have in terms, because everybody's looking forward to, getting together, seeing each other, having a few beverages, but, to beat each other on the golf course. That's a huge part of that Friday morning. And then you leave the golf course and you head up to campus and you hang out all day. It goes right into, the day party. So it's just a whole lot of fun. I can't complain whatsoever. I love everything about homecoming.
Great points that you're making there. in terms that you summed it up so well.
Up to it, down
Uh,
to it,
Down to it.
We'll have to find a way to edit that out so we can do that. I don't know where we're going to be able to do that. But those that know me close, and especially the brothers that around us, they know us about the up to it, down to it. That we like to think that we made famous, obviously, in so many different ways. But this is when I knew I had changed a different level in homecoming and my fandom of a HBCU, particular Prairie View changed. I told you about bringing the first RV to campus basically for homecoming. And so before they paved it, and for those that just have come to homecoming maybe over the last 10 years, don't realize that we were out there at the old stadium, had the homecoming, and we created a plot right next to the stadium in such a way that we would be about 10 feet away from the old field fence. And so for Sweet Life that we like to talk about. And so I would turn all the music around me off in the RV. We would turn up the radio to listen to the game. And I would take my chair in a nice substance of whatever I was enjoying at the time, and I would put it on top of the RV. And so I would watch the game while everybody else was doing their thing and having fun. Many fans would go in the game, many more fans would not, especially before the new stadium for sure, because there just wasn't enough room in there. But when I really do things had changed is if we had lost homecoming, the homecoming afterwards was just not the same. It would take me almost half the night before I could get over and get back into a good mood to enjoy the rest of my homecoming. And that's when I knew things had officially changed for me. That whether it was me being a whole old head or that my official HBCU fandom, the experience of whether we won homecoming or not was officially important to me and would change my mood for the rest of the game. And Mike would be like, "Man, you all right? What's wrong?"
Yep.
Homecoming. I said, "Yeah, it didn't work for me. It took a while." I was like, "We lost." I didn't like we would lose any time, but on homecoming it just seemed to double down. So I don't know what that's about. With that, we're gonna
Absolutely
on HBCU 1230. And we'll come back with a little more comment. We're going to bring in another special guest as we do. Usually we have Rob Calloway, but we're going to bring in another star. We're going to have Tolly Carr, No Huddle and HBCU Gameday, a lot of you. And we're going to get him to talk a little bit about what's going on with HBCU Gameday, the No Huddle, where you can catch that at. He's allowed me to come on there and do my thing on there, so wanted to reciprocate. And he brings it from a different way. This is a professional for folks that don't realize that he's been in the business. So he groomed for this, and he's really, in a lot of ways, progressed me forward, and so I wanted to honor that. But with that, we're going to close out with Ralph Cooper, the Hall of Famer, at KSOH 1230 a.m., and we'll be right back after this quick break. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We'll be back with Tolly Carr.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We have the one and only Mr. Tolly Carr from No Huddle and HBCU Gameday, man. You talking about bringing that energy like no other and bringing you HBCU news, cutting edge, and a flavor that is hard to duplicate anywhere else. Welcome to the lab.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. But you talk about cutting edge. I'm looking at your layout here, man. I can't even compete with what you guys got. I mean, you start talking, man, you go full screen, then you shrink back down. You got your own custom intro. You got the Facebook scrolling on the side. Look, I'm over here taking notes, man. I can't let you go without me another week like this.
Hey, we got you saying, Dr. Lee, what's up?
I'm like the guy in the intro. I'm gonna have to do the dab over here, man. Looking at your show.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. As we say, welcome to the lab that follows. We need you to support, download, register with the network app from Apple and Android app stores. Once at least 20 people register during our show, they will all be entered into a drawing to win cash gifts. Also, 4 special followers will win a free BCSN mask and THC agency mask. Make sure you select number 7 inside the HBCU Sports Lab as a show that brings you the network. We have HBCU Sports Lab gear coming as well. If you have any suggested email designs, email me at jkcavi@gmail.com. That's jkcavi@gmail.com. With that, I see you had the cross colors on. Talk a little bit about what is that in regards to bringing that cross colors back.
Well, we were able to form a partnership with Cross Colors. Now, in the early 90s, Cross Colors was really popular. They had some troubles, later on, like a lot of fashion companies did, and they kind of went away for a while, and then they caught fire and came back. And I'm really excited about the things that they are doing in the community, and that was a great reason for us to collaborate. Of course, commerce and capitalism is always in there somewhere, so you can go to our website at hbcugameday.com. We got a 10% off discount code for anything that you would like from the Cross Colors website, so make sure you check that out. But they're really engaged. They're doing a lot on HBCU campuses. I was a part of a virtual summit that they had a couple of weeks ago that was really, really strong. So, look, everybody wants to, move a few sweatshirts and make a few dollars. You got to make a living. But just really excited about the things that we've been able to partner with. They've been really big on getting people registered to vote, which is super, super, super important. Like, as important as it has ever been times 10. So, really great synergy with Cross Colors and HBCU Gameday. Even Doc got in on the action. We sent him a little package.
Yes, I did. I really like it. I wear my gear with pride, so I appreciate you sharing a little bit about that. I'm looking in the background, and before we get in a little more game day, we're talking about.
I shouldn't have said that. Charles is right there looking at me.
I tried to speed it past the track. It didn't quite work.
You try to
head like, what?
we're trying to
experience. And I see that you have the tailgate set up in the background. Yeah, for sure. Tell us a little bit about the tailgate experience, Winston-Salem State, and just as you've covered HBCUs over the years, tell us in regards to what are your thoughts of HBCU homecoming, the experience?
Well, I'm a Winston-Salem State graduate, class of 96, and this is really sad. I've never had the opportunity to enjoy the tailgate because from the time I was a sophomore in college, I was always working. So I was calling games when I was in school, working in radio and television after I graduated. So I spent more time in the press box and the sidelines. I never really got to kick it and hang out with my friends, but I could go to other people's homecoming because, I was able to capture stories and it was more like work. But, I have really been amazed, guys, coming from North Carolina. My family moved to Atlanta in 2016, so about the last, 4 to 5 years. Really just, I've been indoctrinated into the SIAC and the SWAC. And no lie, it is an entirely different football experience in the SWAC and the SIAC because every weekend is a classic. In the CIAA and the MEAC, man, you might have a classic at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, but I mean, I really attached to Tuskegee when I first got here because they were I was familiar with them because Winston-Salem State played them a lot when I was in school and right after school in the now defunct Pioneer Bowl. So I had a little bit of familiarity there. Man, Tuskegee is a road show. They could be a classic away from their campus every single week. And a lot of times when you look at their schedule, they have just as many home games on the road as they do, there in Tuskegee. So here in the South, man, it is great. And I tell you what, you guys will appreciate this. You get to certain parts of South Georgia, Alabama, you'll be at the tailgate, right? You might hear a gospel song blaring from, an area. Next song
Oh,
is
yeah.
Clarence Carter.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, that was a hard transition right there, man. And nobody missed the beat. So it is a different flavor for sure.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it. Great points. Great points. Let me go to you, Charles. Go ahead and follow up.
Well, Tolly, actually, that was a question that I had in terms of with HBCU Game Day. You guys are all over in terms of covering all of HBCU sports, but what are the kind of the nuances from covering the CIAA to the SIAC to the MEAC to the SWAC?
It is interesting because each conference has its own identity. You think of the CIAA as a basketball conference. You think of the SIAC traditionally as a football conference, but the last couple of years, they had kind of flip-flopped. Like the CIAA was really strong in football and the SIAC was really strong in basketball. So it kind of pushed against some of those things that you thought. But, the main thing we try to do is really just, capture the essence of the stories and go beyond what you see that happens. Because, look, man, somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to not be able to figure out the play action. But what was the overall, vibe, man? And what makes each campus tick? What are some of those cool stories that you might not ever hear about unless someone takes the time to tell it, man? And I've met some extraordinary, brilliant student athletes that, just don't get the attention that they would have gotten if they had gone to the, University of Georgia or Mississippi State or wherever else you can think of, some of the schools we, see more in the mainstream media. So we really try to get in there, man, and tell those stories. But, we also have to keep it real, man, because the student athletes are important and sometimes they need somebody to be a voice for them. So there's been a couple times, not often, but, if somebody's not doing right and student athletes are having a hard time and you need to tell their story to get them some leverage in the situation, so to speak, we've had to do that. And we kind of have a situation going on right now that we're covering where a lot of student athletes are reaching out to us. So, we just try to be balanced, man. And while we want to give fans that experience, we still have to maintain our integrity as journalists, but journalists with a little bit of flavor, I'll say.
Sure.
Journalists with a little bit of flavor. I like that. Go ahead, Mike, if you would follow up.
Yes, Tolly, I always say that, following up on Charles' question, when you see articles written in popular news journals, newsletters, on websites, typically there seems to be this unwritten, I guess, East Coast bias for HBCUs. And I like, how you describe, your approach to looking at all the different flavors of HBCUs. So I'm going to ask you, like I had Keisha, because there are HBCUs west of the Mississippi, contrary to popular demand, popular belief. If you had to choose the four ingredients, the most important ingredients in making up a gumbo or a stew for an HBCU experience, what would those four experiences be based on your experiences, your coverage of HBCUs? How would you rank them?
Man, listen, I'm not great on cooking. I'm great on eating. But I tell you what, whatever they put in the pot at the Soul Bowl, you go to any tailgate in the Soul Bowl. Whatever they got in that pot is the answer, man. I saw one of our contributors, Wilton Jackson, he was covering the Soul Bowl a couple years ago, man. This dude had like a witch's cauldron looking pot, man, and he had some smoke coming out of that thing, man. I wanted to jump through the phone and just taste what he had in that pot. So I'm going to go with whatever they're cooking up at the Soul Bowl.
I can attest to that.
I can attest to that too.
If you were to have something for me, it would have to have it's got to have some curry in it, man. I'm married into a family with a lot of Jamaican roots, man, and they have turned me on to curry, man. If you throw a little curry goat in there, I'm all in.
Man, I can't. I love my trips
I can.
to the Caribbean, and I had a chance to take experience to do homecoming on the islands in regards to the University of Virgin Islands, which is the only HBCU outside of the continental U.S., as many of us may not know. And boy, you talking about a different flavor for the tailgate, but boy, you can tell those HBCU roots are there. It's not an HBCU, but the University of the Bahamas, as it's close and has a lot of people that go back and forth between Florida and U.S. They now have this homecoming and tailgate experience that is much like an HBCU. Boy, you can tell that rivalry game between the University of the Bahamas and the Virgin Islands. It's as heated as any of them out there. It's just in the Caribbean. So it's fascinating to touch on that a little bit. But back to that in regards to the homecoming and the news experience. This is the homecoming type of year. Obviously, we're not playing the traditional games, but your experience in that, in terms of covering the games in the mix of telling the culture and getting into just the numbers, whether it's football or basketball, or even baseball and volleyball, if you would, for some of the women's sports, and obviously basketball, men's and women's, and then track and field. Talk about what it takes to curate that from your experience of what you learned professionally, and then the twist you put on it to give us what we see in the no huddle, obviously, in terms of that framework.
Well, you really have to capture, man, the crowd and the element that the crowd plays into all of these athletic contests. Whether it's a game in the middle of the CIAA tournament or, one of these volleyball roundups or rodeos. It's just a different flavor in the stands, man. And you really have to incorporate that into the story of the game, man, because you'll have people, somebody makes a big play, man. I'm thinking back to a game in Clark, Atlanta, man. Like, I think even the referees get it. Like, there's going to be a point where the student body is just going to run out on the floor. And this one kid, man, just started dancing. It's the equivalent of a TV timeout, man. If somebody gets a dunk on a 10-0 run to tie the score back up, man, they're going to set it off, and it's going to be no technical foul. They're going to let them burn that energy off, and then they're going to get back to the game, man. And in some places that might happen. People might look around like, what in the heck just happened here? But that's how we do it, man. And you expect it. And when that happens, it's all for the good, because you know that you were at a game that you're probably not going to forget for quite a while. So the way not only the fans, man, but of course, football at halftime, man. There is no bigger video in terms of plays, interactions, engagement that we have had. It's not even close. Maybe Deion Sanders will break this record here when we start playing football. But anything the honeybee that Alabama State does is bigger than the game, man. Literally, like. There are times I wouldn't do this, but we kind of laugh like, man, I could have just showed up at halftime, shot a little video, went back home, and we would have got the traffic we were looking for that weekend. So it's like 3 games in one. You got the game, you got the fans, and then you got the other groups that add to it with the band and the dancers and the cheerleaders. Man, don't let the 2 cheerleaders have a meeting at half court, man. That's a whole different set of circumstances right there. So you just have to capture all that, man, and know that people are looking forward to to seeing like a 360-degree immersive experience if they were not there. Yeah, they want to see who won and who hit a couple of three-pointers, man. But you got to show them what the band did, what the cheerleaders were doing, who had on what in the stands. You got to show all that.
Yeah, that's part of that brew, that gumbo that Mike is talking about. Before we get back, and I'm going to pass it to Charles to ask the follow-up question, but before I do that, Lawrence D. White jumped in there.
Hey, when you asked me about gumbo, were you asking me about food, or was that like symbolic gumbo?
No, that was symbolic gumbo.
Symbolic
gumbo.
Now I feel stupid.
We'll let you come back and answer that question.
We let you come back and answer it, but that was symbolic gumbo.
I thought you were literally asking me about food, man.
Yeah, I know, but I knew the pot you were talking about, but I was talking symbolic gumbo of the ingredients of that total immersive experience that you alluded to. So we knew we would get back to it. No worries,
Mike. You gotta keep it simple with me, man. If you ask me about gumbo, I'm gonna literally start talking about gumbo. Which I know nothing about.
See, he does this to me on No Huddle. You know, I'll come up here and I'll say something. I think I've just brought out this brilliant framework of this discussion. He comes back and said, Doc, what was that word?
What was the last word? Doc said something, and the only thing I could connect with, I said it sounded like Episcopalian, but I know that's not what you said. Or maybe it was.
I said, what was it? I'm asking Story. He's like, what? Pennsylvania? Is it a church or something? What we going?
What's that thing called when you only eat fish? What's that called? Pescatarian. I didn't know what.
Pescatarian.
Yeah, pescatarian.
Yeah.
Let me jump in here and say, Lawrence D. White. He said his top 4 homecoming events are 4. The morning parade. Yeah, you know that's old school. I like that. I didn't think about that, but the parade is nice. With high school,
parade's good.
PV marching band, in his case, or the home marching band. 3, during the pre-tailgating, meeting old acquaintance, shopping at the student union, more acquaintance, the actual
old acquaintances.
Old acquaintance.
Yeah, number 1, the game, Gold Panthers. It's pretty good with the gumbo. Before I pass it to Charles, then let me let you jump right in here and talk about the ingredients, the metaphoric framework, if we would, of what are the top 4 items that are part of a homecoming that are important to you to say, hey, if I was going to measure these homecomings as the top, these are the 4 things I would look at to say this is one of the top homecomings that you got to go to.
Well, I think the first thing is you got to see something unique when it comes to what's on the grill. Like it just can't be, you know, chicken, hot dogs. You gotta give it that state fair feel. Like somebody's got to fry up some Oreos, or you know, you got to go all out. I'm thinking about some of the things, although it's not a homecoming. Some of the things I've seen at the Magic City Classic, I'm like, yeah, that was different. One year I saw a pig, man. I think that pig had just got there, like right after. Like, he still had the little hairs on his tongue, man. He was fresh. So you gotta have that. Your band has to pull out something special. You know what I mean? Like, so
exactly.
When we cover games, a lot of times, you know, you'll see a band. You know, you might see them week 2, week 4, week 5, depending on the matchup. You're like, okay, all right, that's your set. Like, I knew what you were gonna play before you played it. Which is fine. You know, you can't just have 1,000 songs to start the year, but you got to have something in the kitty for the band. So you got to pull out something special there. Somebody on the field, man, has to do something. Like you got to make a play. You got to get a contribution from somebody that you just did not expect. I heard you talking earlier, Doc. Like, I'm all right if my team, you know, we don't necessarily have to win the game, man, but it can't be ugly. I remember some homecomings where, you know, I think the players must have the miss curfew on Friday night because they did not show up for the game. So you got to give us some excitement. Somebody's got to have a moment that we'll be talking about, you know, 20 years down the road. And the alumni band, the alumni cheerleaders, you got to show that you still got it. I mean, when you come out there,
Absolutely.
you don't have to go to full 20 minutes, but you got to give me 2 minutes of your best, so we can rate you against the young folks out there. So my wife is a former cheerleader. She's shown up for the alumni cheerleading at Winston-Salem State, so that's always a big conversation. So you got to have something special with food. Something special's got to happen at the game. The alumni's got to get right, and halftime, you got to bring out just a little extra, just a little new outfit. So you got to switch something up.
I love it. Yeah, you got to bring that. You got to bring that fire, the HBCU sports culture, as I like to talk about. The HBCU athletics is framing of all our discussion as we talk about HBCU homecoming experience. With that, you're on Aspire, No Huddle. Talk a little bit about how they came and what people can continue to expect in regards to how they turn in, when they turn in, and moving forward with No Huddle on Aspire Network TV.
Well, this is our second season. Last year was pretty easy because we had games every week. So when we had the discussions about, that wasn't too hard. So when we had the discussions about season 2 with the execs over at Aspire, they were like, "Are you sure you can do a show?" Like, the games hadn't been canceled yet, but I was like, "Come on, these HBCU folks are not going to be out here playing football with the Rona. They're going to wait. They're going to wait to make sure maybe some of those insurance policies kick in on those money games." But we knew we weren't going to play in the fall. But I told them no problem, because we have, one of the things that's really great about doing this, the longer you do this, you build up an extensive library. So, when you look back at the past decade, we got a lot of the great moments that have happened in HBCU football, and we have that recorded and documented and archived, so we can pull from that. But again, there's just so many great stories. I mean, you couldn't have told me then, earlier in the summer that, Deion Sanders was going to be the coach of Jackson State, and that'd be something to talk about every single day. But there's been no shortage of content at all, and it's not something that I was worried about. So we're going to continue the season. Hopefully, it'll be 17 weeks for sure. But the part I was saying hopefully about, hopefully we'll be able to kind of have a bonus season with spring football. We'll have to wait and see and make sure that everything is still a go for that. But we're going to finish out through December as if there would have been a Celebration Bowl, telling stories about HBCU culture, sports, and athletes. Then we're going to slide into basketball, and we'll see how things go with football for the spring. But you can catch it on Aspire TV every Sunday starting at 12 noon Eastern Time. And then after that, we got another show that we produce, HBCU 101, that takes it away from sports, but still is a weekly conversation about people directly tied into HBCUs and things that they've been able to do in their life and the role that their HBCU has played. Last season, we had Keisha Pulliam from the Cosby Show, of course. We had Will Packer, a big movie producer. So it's we've had a few names. We had DJ Envy on the show this year from the Breakfast Club. He's a Hampton guy. So we've had some people representing, and our guy Vaughn hooked us up with. We haven't produced anything yet. It might just be a digital episode, but Vaughn Wilson down at Tallahassee and FAMU hooked us up with George Clinton. Man, we had a conversation with George Clinton last week, and to hear him explain what went into the production of Atomic Dog was amazing. So you guys got to stick around for that. Sometimes something becomes so revered, and we think, man, he stayed up all night, and that verse meant this, and that verse meant that. So that's a great conversation.
You heard it here
first. I bet that is.
So check it out.
His tie-in, although he's not an HBCU guy per se, he recently, the Omega Psi Phi made him an honorary member with their recent class. If I say that right, I'm not a part of the Divine Nine. I'll screw up all that terminology, so fix it up if I did. But of course, his song "Atomic Dog" and others a big part of the HBCU universe. So great conversation. We're looking forward to that. But a lot of good things.
Yeah, no doubt. No, you said it right. HBCU,
I don't want any
and Atomic Dog. Oh my goodness, boy! You can turn it on and I think they had one little video going around. They were in the military. Get up and they turned it on and they almost lost their stars. They cut up so bad. But them are boys out there. So Divide 9, I like it all. But as we come to the close, I'm glad you got a chance to get in there and talk about HBCU 101. Obviously, we talk a little bit of and branded well to No Huddle, but HBCU 101 is important as well, and the way that you're bringing that brilliance to the TV on Aspire. Wanted to make sure we talk about that. Before we close, anything else you want to share?
If you ever miss any episodes, it's always available on our YouTube channel. You can find links at HBCUGameday.com. It's on our OTT. We got a Roku and a Fire TV app, so you can find it anywhere.
Great. Appreciate having you on, Mr. Tolly Carr. HBCU Game Day and No Huddle on Aspire TV, as well as HBCU 101. Check them out on YouTube if you can't catch it live on Sundays. Check it out on YouTube. You can go get the information there. Follow all the news, HBCUGameday.com. If you're an HBCU fan, I really don't have to tell you that because they break the news and they sharing it with me. I'll be like, yeah, luckily I know the people, so I'm getting a little heads up on what's going on. But that's good stuff. But I appreciate it. Keep it coming just in case I don't get it. I need to know it because we need to do what we need to do on the show. And when we do break it, one thing we'll tell you about us here. Yeah, one thing we do about here, we give the credit in regards to when we're talking about news and HBCU of the day. Yeah. We say, hey, this came from HBCU Game Day. This came from HBCU Sports. This came from BCSN. And so we give you those updates with that. And we're tuning off now. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU of College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop, and our homecoming review. Hope you enjoyed it as we come to a close. We hope you enjoyed the interview with Keisha Kelly, Kelley, a Black College Experience, the founder, Tolly Carr of HBCU Game Day and No Huddle, HBCU 101 on Aspire TV. Again, we thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. And before I break and close Tolly Carr, you know I need to get one of those hats. I'm a hat guy. I'll break it out on the show for real, even though I got my little professor look. I need that cap. Thank you. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattacavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattacavil. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Course,
lecture,
dismissed.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it. I love it.